drugs is a word which has polluted the well of language. Part of the reason we have a drug problem is because we don't have an intelligent language to talk about substances, plants, psychedelic states of mind, sedative states of mind, states of amphetamine excitation. We can't make sense of the problem and the opportunities offered by substances unless we clean up our language. Drugs is a word that's been used by governments to make it impossible to think creatively about the problem of substances and abuse and availability and so forth and so on.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You're having a nightmare. What if it's true?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Alan, it's a possibility, isn't it?
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Secrets.
In a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers,
constant, extreme danger,
which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger,
extreme danger,
that an announced need for increased security.
What the hell is going on?
This is Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park.
Will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
You're crazy.
And no officious, high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes.
Isn't the Pentagon suspicious that all the buildings blow up?
And I gave a little whoop of joy.
Withhold from the press and the public
I think you're just looking at things for the first time.
the facts they deserve to know.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
The facts they deserve to know. They deserve to know. Deserve to know. Deserve to know.
Welcome to Green Crush Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. We have a special guest today, like always. But let's get this out of the way first.
Facts they deserve to know.
Those who have achieved unelevated existence, raise your fists.
Okay. Welcome to the incessant need. That's it. Silence. Dead silence. The incessant need to get the word out during what's going on in this world with these cannabis regulations. It's ridiculous. We were just talking to a gentleman today who was having a great deal of difficulty understanding the laws and legalities coming down, and he's in the business. And you want to get in the business. Good luck. You have to have friends. Connected. Well-connected friends. Right, Steve Bronfman? Oh, of the Bronfman family. We'll get to more of them later. I keep trying to talk about this Nexium cult of demonic mental cases. And very much involved with the Bronfman family. Now, you might think, what has that got to do with this? I thought they were just rum runners back in the 20s who managed to parlay that whole illegality into deep, deep, deep pockets. Yeah, fast forward that again to right now, and then throw in a friggin' weird sex cult on top of that. That's what we're dealing with today. So I had to come in with some clean silence there. Here we are with Green Crush. What are we? Episode 93. Is that right? No, that's not right. It's some kind of episode anyway. We put the two episodes together. That's what we do. We have a great show for you this week. I'm going to get to it in a second. I promise. It is very much a show for me to discover what's going to happen when our particular guest comes on. We spoke a little bit on the weekend, and I always like to find out what people's different angles are when they're tackling this ridiculous legal system. So, and when I say legal system, I mean the means to nullify your rights to be able to use that plant growing over there, just outside of the shot of this camera. Just over here a little bit. You can't quite see it. It's over there. It's illegal. It's this plant growing here. What? Let's get down there right away to 234 King Street East, home of the Pacific Junction Hotel, where we do this show every week. Unless I can't do it, or we don't want to do it, or there's some reason. You know, like even Christmas and New Year's. We didn't take time off for that. We had no desire to do that to you folks. We went right on through, and then a few weeks ago had a break. I don't know when the next break will be. Who cares? It's going to be a good reason, though, when it happens. Promise. So this is, to clarify things, I had 12 in my mind. That's because this is episode 111 of Conspiracy Queries and 39 of Green Crush. And if you add 111, 11 plus 1 is 12, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So we're on to something. And then that breaks down to a 3, which is a special number for today. We won't get into it, other than to say one of my favorite 3 vegetables is an eggplant. And this show is brought to you by Eggplant Digital Media Creation. Not the food, the digital media creation people. Some of the most innovative and exciting digital media out there. Happy to be part of that team. Coming to you live, like I say, from the Pacific Junction Hotel. The enchanting Pacific Junction Hotel. Or as I like to call it recently, the Specific Function Hotel. Tuesdays at 2:03 EST, and we're always a little bit late, but we are live, though. And that's why there are glitches. We are looking at creating a perfect segment. We're going to do a perfect segment that has no flaws whatsoever, even though it's a live show. People nowhere near perfect strive for perfection all the time. I am one of those. So we will use the same kind of voice machine that big-time recording stars use. And with this, you know, the kind of people that can't really sing, and then they pipe it through that thing, and it comes out perfectly, and then you'll buy it, and your kids will want to take you to that concert. So I'm going to get one of those machines, and we're going to do, I can't do a whole show like that, but we're going to do a whole perfect segment sometime down the road. I don't know what we're going to feature inside of that segment, but it is going to sound fantastic. Our guest today is Alicia Yashcheshen, and she's not here. She's in Saskatchewan. So that's Central Time, or Mountain Time, I guess. Is that Mountain Time in the States? I don't know. Do you know what that is, Russell? Mountain Time? Central's Mountain? Well, so if you're somehow or other, Mountain and Central are the same thing. So that's where she is. So this show hasn't even started yet for her, if she's listening to it in real time. Or has it? She is the joint host at PACE. And PACE is People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio on Lifestyle Radio. And that's pace-online.ca. Check that out. She is also the developmental director at Saskatchewan Medical Cannabis Association. So send in your cards and letters if you really want to find out some things about what goes on. This is, if you're not listening from Canada, you maybe don't know what Saskatchewan is. Maybe you haven't heard of it. We kind of hog all the glory in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, but there's a very essential part of Canada called the Middle, and that's where Alicia lives. So she'll be coming on the Middle of the show because she's from the middle of Saskatchewan. And she is going to tell us about what more questions that I had. A few more questions lined up specifically. She is a now it says this on the bio, so here we go. She is a feminist cannabis hue woman. Let me spell that. HU brackets WO brackets W. Sorry, I've screwed it up. HU brackets WO brackets MAN. A hue woman writes. You have to say it quickly, and I almost don't notice it. Human rights activist who studies social and civil justice, proudly proclaiming that a marvelous plant saved her from the depths of allopathic medicine hell. Hey, I've been down there. Allopathic medicine hell. She was hit with Crohn's disease, never fun, and NSAIDs. You know that thing? NSAIDs. It's like aspirin. Basic stuff, and associated gastrointestinal injury. That's a thing. They're supposed to take it every single day, they tell you. And then some people wind up with, I'm not laughing at that, just the fact that they tell you to take it every day. And she had also used other drugs, including Vioxx. I'm going to ask her about that. That was a heart medication that they pulled because it was hurting people's hearts. Isn't that weird how that happens so much with the allopathic medicine hell? After 7 car accidents. Now listen, I'm going to have to take issue with that. How do you have 7 car accidents? And we'll have to find out. She had related knee surgeries at the age of 16, many years of medical struggle, found cannabis in 2008, and then began her journey of recovery from disease and physical addiction to opioids. Terrible stuff. The people putting that on the market should be put down like dogs. Did he really say that? I did. And without the pain medication they give dogs to put them down, I might add. The Crohn's drugs she reacted to were methotrexate, gave her abdominal pain, caused her hair to fall out. That's fun. Don't remember that happening when I was using cannabis, whether I went bald from using. No, I guess it didn't. Remicade also paralyzed her, some other kind of thing, and drugs like Pantaza, and it'll have some other weird name too. These terrible drugs always come with their own built-in alias, just in case. And Entocort made her sicker, weaker, and sadder. But she has been pharma-free since almost 10 years ago now, from 40 pills a day. 40 pills? We had Josh Lee on last week. He had 27 pills a day. He had a garbage bag for a year's worth. So her bag is almost twice the size of this. And I overcame opiate addiction. Not me, Alicia. She overcame opiate addiction in 2010. So that's when she helped found the Saskatchewan Medical Cannabis Association. Isn't it another case of people being dealt a really bum hand, figuring it out with cannabis, and then promoting the cannabis and use thereof later on, only to have to listen to uneducated fools tell you how dangerous it is. And some of the politicians that they actually elect go along with that notion. Now, of course, it's dangerous if you use it incorrectly. I was just thinking about that the other day while writing something with a pen, which would penetrate deeply into your skull if I were to accidentally use it in the wrong way, and therefore we are banning pens in Canada. Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not. We're teaching kids how to use them, though, at a young age. You notice that? And that's basically all we have to do here with it. I think we're on the last... This might be the last show. This could be the last show. I think I'm starting to sound like a broken record about how this fantastic substance is not exactly the death sentence that these pigs and punks that pretend to be our leaders would have us believe. It's kind of a ridiculous notion. Especially when you have done the homework. Which is not always the case with these the politicians that are setting the pace together, not to crash her pace, not to crash Alicia's pace. But hey, Alan, did you attend last week's Global Marijuana March? No, I did not. But you said you were going to be there. Yes, I did. But sometimes things come up. But I heard you were going to be one of the speakers. I was indeed. I was going to be one of the speakers, but unfortunately, the number changed. A few numbers changed. And the first one that I knew of was that my time at the speaker portion of the march was cut to 2 minutes. Now, that's just a technicality. I was still going to go. I had actually looked up a page on how to deliver a 2-minute speech in front of a crowd of people. It's got to be about 8-10 sentences only. And I was going to put my story inside of 2 minutes. But that's not the reason I didn't attend the march. I did not attend the march because the day that I learned that, just a few hours afterwards, I learned on that same last Wednesday that my blood numbers having to do with my cancer have decided to go back up. So I wasn't too happy about that. There are several different markers that I go by, and my doctor goes by, my oncologist goes by. And those markers, specifically the PSA, the prostate-specific antigen, which, although I'm not a doctor, I would have been prepared to write that off, the slight bump in that, due to the fact that I did have some kind of problem with my throat. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that about a month ago, and I was kicking at that pretty hard, and it was kicking at me. And I think it might have been a virus or a bacterial infection or something. It's gone now, yay. And that might have caused my PSA to read a little more higher up the scale than is comfortable. However, there's another number called a alkalytic phosphatic acid, and this number determines bone activity. You kind of don't want any of that. Once you're finished growing or healing, you want to be just sitting still with that number. And it needs to sit in a pocket, a range, a comfortable range, like on The Price is Right when they have that finder that goes up and down around the price. You don't have to be exactly there, but in any case, after 36 fantastic months in a row, I did not have a happy number there. It just broke out of the comfort zone. So where I'm at is this. If you're just joining us, this is Green Crush Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park, and I'm about to tell you my medical history once again. So if you've heard this part, either put it on pause or skip forward, but it does come with the update. That approximately 15 months ago, just a couple of months before I began this show, on the heels of the Raw Mike Richards interview that I did back in April, or was it May? May last year. Just before that, a couple of months before that, I had stopped with my regular cannabis oil treatment per se. I still used it intermittently here and there. I would do a couple of weeks of a small rice grain of this powerful oil, but I wasn't really on the course proper. I had done that, and I had put my numbers in great shape, and I was seeing if I was able to continue my life without this stuff. People ask me that all the time. Are you still going to need to use cannabis later? I don't know. I really didn't know, and I guess I wanted to find out, and now I think I have found out that perhaps in my case, that was so severe, maybe it doesn't turn around all the way. Maybe I haven't tried hard enough. I'm still 3.5 years past the guaranteed funeral date, so I feel comfortable to experiment, and therefore what I did was I decided to stop taking this oil, full stop. And I also stopped deciding to take last year sometime. I made the decision no more of the hormone suppressant that was given to me as well. And at the same time, my doctor believed the hormone depressant was taking care of everything, even though it only has a certain amount of efficacy time. Anyway, I have cleared the decks. So I have not been taking any pharma, and I have not been taking medicinal doses of medicinal cannabis for about 16 months now. And that means I'm an empty vessel. And I'm just filled with the food that I ate for lunch and the tea that I'm drinking now. And I don't have any of this substance in me, and my numbers have started to climb up. So, I've got a little proposition here from my doctor. He's already heard me out on this and has reluctantly agreed that while some people have forwarded the notion that I'm foolish to take my own life in my hands, I'll say that it's the life that I was able to continue by my own means. And so what I'm doing with it is my choice. And my choice is that, of course, I won't be doing the any kind of future interventionist technology such as chemotherapy. I won't be doing that next month, although my doctor has said that if this stuff stays the same or gets worse, that I should do chemotherapy. That's what he said. And what I said was, well, since I haven't had any of your medicine in me or any of my medicine in me, what if I come back here in a month and it turns out the numbers are slightly below or even further below this alarming state. You will have to conclude at that point that since I'm only doing the cannabis oil, that is the thing that is turning stuff around for me. And he reluctantly agreed. So here we go. Here we go down the track again. This will be, this will be the third time I knew it was coming, but this is also, I've known this is coming because I've been pacing myself and watching the blood counts monthly now instead of every 3 months. And so I'm at this juncture where I will get to find out by only adding cannabis oil and watching this exclusively from the position of actually doing this while I'm hosting this show. And for however long that takes. So I'm going full hog for another 3-month session, starting, yesterday. and doing a 3-month session of this, and at the end of which time, at the end of 1 month, we should have some kind of positive readings. And then we will get back to that, and I will bring that on the show later. Okay, so that's basically where I'm at right now. People ask, how are you doing? That's exactly how I'm doing. I feel great, by the way. I don't feel any changes. I don't feel any problems. I don't feel any issues. But the blood markers, 2 of them, have come up together indicating otherwise. And so that means I'm at the very, very beginning of this, and for the first time ever. I mean, the first time it came upon me, I was suffering all year and not knowing what was going on until I was completely eviscerated, or damn near. So now I'm going back into that. So here we are. This is a running litmus test. We're going to see how this thing goes. Once again, as for all government-sponsored weed, the personal minister who profit models off of all of this, I have a couple of things to say. Boycott it. Let's try that for a little bit, okay? Let's just kick that around for a bit. Let's boycott government weed. Now let's make that official. I should make that completely official. Here we go. Yes, we want you to boycott all government weed. Consume it wherever you choose, within reason. Don't blow smoke at people's faces, but vape and smoke and oil to yourselves' contentment. And that means everybody listening. Hey, listen, here's another thing that's really important. I got to close that little thing out here. Hang on. There it is. That's the quick one at the end. I like that one better. Maybe we should do that both times. If we disappear, if Green Crush goes away for some reason, you can't find it, maybe you're signed on, do that right now anyway. Sign on to YouTube, or forget YouTube. Sign on to iTunes and engage and re-engage with the show. And that'll help us gain followers, etc., which will then put us in the light of YouTube to get rid of us, and we don't have cannabis in our name, so that's maybe why we're still here. This is kind of a quick alert. If we disappear and you can't find Green Crush Conspiracy Queries on YouTube anymore, just open up your Google, or in fact, I would say another search engine, because Google and YouTube are the same thing anyway, and take a look at us on DuckDuckGo or something, another search engine. They do exist. And if we get purged from the Facebook situation, we will lose our show page there, we will lose our backed up shows, and we will be taking that elsewhere. So follow us there. You will find we have fully backed up 39 episodes and this one, and we'll just keep going until we are forced to relaunch elsewhere. Could be on Vimeo, could be on Daily Motion, could be I don't know where. Danny probably has a better idea of that than I do. But we will be around. They will not fully remove us. They will not nervous Nelly us out of existence. The same informational push by that time that you will also need to source for yourself your own quality seeds, not yet infected by the tumorous cancer growth that is the pending Monsanto-Bayer merger. Protect yourself, grow your own, ask no permission, and enjoy. Grow the plant, consume it as food. It's a tea. It's a regular component of salad. Forget kale and iceberg. This stuff is food. Get to it. So, now some news before we get to our guest. Boop, ba, boop, boop, boop. So she is with PACE, People Advocating Cannabis Education. That's Alicia Yashcheshen. She'll be on shortly. Yeah. And as well, we have another fantastic Well, we have a sponsor. Okay, so that's pretty cool stuff. And I will leave it at this for now, and I will cover this in the show so Kim don't have an aneurysm. We will be definitely referencing this particular arrangement we have made with Ross's Glass. Remember him from Kelowna? He's an Olympian. This fella has deemed it okay to deal with this show, and we're going to try to help him move some of his fantastic glass. You should see all the stuff that they have there. Ross was on the show back in whenever that was, sometime in 17. Not a former champion. He's a champion. He's a snowboarding champion. Got a great company. We have a full-on proper ad for him coming up shortly. So, great. Now let's move on with, let's get into the history. Now, I just cracked this open a little bit last week, and I need to spend more time with it. So, let's go to that. Ancient weed history. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Because here's this fellow. He's 89 years old. He's a legendary psychiatrist and marijuana advocate. He doesn't have a Harvard professorship. Well, now, neither do I, but I don't have reason to complain about that. He says he wants a goddamn strong statement on marijuana. He wants one on marijuana that tears the ass out of them. This is an 89-year-old man. I don't know where he gets the gumption. Only 89-year-old men even know that word half the time, gumption. It was in May 71, Richard Nixon, president, was fuming over the review included in his morning news summary, Marijuana Reconsidered, by Lester Grinspoon, 42-year-old Harvard medical student at the time. And he was savaging the government's case for keeping cannabis illegal. And this is the big problem. That was like 50 years ago, close to it. And we have been suffering as a race, and by that I mean the human one, not the subdivisions thereof that cause so much other kinds of inflammation. And we need to understand that this guy was at the forefront of truth, not Richard Nixon's American president bullshit. And when that guy died and so many people came out to the funeral, you can't believe it. Like, which other kind of person that you don't respect do you go to their funeral? But they all went to Richard Nixon's funeral. Richard Nixon set this nation of America and thereby the one just north of it, Canada and Mexico and around the world. He really, really fucked things up by lying about it in order to incarcerate people. And so this is why I'm not really comfortable with this new set of laws, because as soon as these ass clowns put them together, we're going to be having all kinds of trouble. We already are, and people don't realize it. So we need to get Lester Grinspoon recognized over there at Harvard, where he was teaching. The New York Times called his book the best dope on pot so far, because a lot of people in the newspaper business particularly enjoyed puns. And the author's Ivy League pedigree made it hard to dismiss it as a hippie screed, but they tried to dismiss it as a hippie screed. So, there was Nixon all anti-Semitic and everything, hating the fact that what's the matter with the Jews, and Lester is Jewish, and there you go. So he called him a clown on the far left, whereas Nixon was an ass clown right there on Pennsylvania Avenue, right in the middle. So Grinspoon didn't even know about this, Barb, until recently, but calls it a red badge of courage, being called out in a negative way by Nixon. I would have to agree. He's a psychiatrist, a Vietnam War opponent, the son of a Russian Jew, and made a target for Nixon. Nixon loved tearing him apart, but always using fiction for this. So Grinspoon now says he's been twice denied a promotion to full professor, once in 75 and again in 97, despite a career that includes pioneering research on schizophrenia, dozens of books and papers, and leadership roles at Massachusetts Mental Health Center and other prestigious institutions, and retired in 2000 as an associate professor. Schools never offered an explanation, but his allies believe an undercurrent of unscientific prejudice, don't you think, against cannabis among faculty and school leaders doomed his chances. Grinspoon remembers the dean there telling him in 75 the promotions committee hated his book because it was too controversial. I can't say fuck people like this strongly enough. It's controversial. What, I didn't shave off the crusts of my cheese sandwich at the church picnic? Can't believe I wouldn't cut the crusts off my Wonder Bread? Is that how controversial it is? So, this guy needs another shot. He needs to get in there. He needs to be recognized for the good work that he found, which is truth. Truth, truth, truth. So that's what we need to do with Lester. That's what Lester needs to have. Lester Grinspoon, look him up. Marijuana reconsidered. When was he reconsidering it? In the 60s. And then he promoted this thing in the 70s. And they said it's too controversial. You can't have a thing like that. That's ridiculous. So now I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. But listen to this. From popularmechanics.com, mainstream articles. Mainstream for the mainstream types. Have a look at this by Eric Lemmer. I think his name is Limer. Eric with a C. From April 20th. Here's this article. $1 billion crop. What does that mean? Well, from the Popular Mechanics 1938 February issue, it says American farmers. This is 1938. Okay, this is a long time ago. I don't know what your age is right now, but let's see.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away,
or just over the border. Yeah, that's how long ago it was. That's the kind of music they were listening to when this article came out. American farmers are promised a new cash crop with an annual value of several $100 million. 1938, remember. Are you done shitting your pants? Okay. All because a machine has been invented which solves a problem more than 6,000 years old. It is hemp, a crop that will not compete with other American products. Instead, it will displace imports of raw material and manufactured products produced by underpaid peasant and coolie labor. And it will provide thousands of jobs for American workers throughout the land. The machine which makes this possible is designed for removing the fiber-bearing cortex from the rest of the stalk, making hemp fiber available for use without a prohibitive amount of human labor. Hemp is the standard fiber of the world. It has great tensile strength and durability. It is used to produce more than 5,000 textile products ranging from rope to fine laces. And the wood herds remaining after the fiber has been removed contains more than 77% cellulose and can be used to produce more than 25,000 products ranging from dynamite to cellophane. Fishnets, bowstrings, canvas, strong rope, overalls, damask tablecloths, fine linen garments, towels, bed linen, and thousands of other everyday items can be grown on American farms. Our imports of foreign fabrics and fibers average about 200 million per year. In raw fibers alone, we import over $50 million in the first 6 months of 1937. All of this income can be made available for Americans, and they chose not to. Isn't that cool? Oh, God. One obstacle in the onward march of hemp is the reluctance of farmers to try new crops. The problem is complicated by the need for proper equipment. A reasonable distance from the farm, the machine cannot be operated profitably unless there is enough acreage, well, that's not a problem, within driving range, and farmers cannot find a profitable market unless there is machinery to handle the crop. But instead, let's build multi-thousand billion-dollar bombs and blow the shit out of places elsewhere. And of course, another obstacle about to blossom of the female hemp plant contains marijuana, a narcotic, and it is impossible to grow hemp without producing the blossom. Federal regulations now being drawn up require registration of hemp growers, and tentative proposals for preventing narcotic production are rather stringent. However, the connection of hemp as a crop and marijuana seems to be exaggerated. The drug is usually produced from wild hemp or loco weed, which can be found on vacant lots and along railroad tracks in every state. Amazing. It's an incredible article. I encourage you strongly to go there. And the whole thing eventually links over to a Google Books page, which is basically photo shots of all of this fantastic, incredible scientific news about cannabis around 80 years ago. 80 years in the shitter. 50 years since Nixon. Fucking lies everywhere. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. It's dangerous. If you're listening to this show and you're a critic of it and you'd like to, prove me wrong, please come on. Please contact one of our people. Myself, Danny, Kim. Get a hold of us. Tell me how you know what you're talking about. Bring it forward. Hey, there's an election coming up in Ontario. Maybe some of those folks would like to get that together. Have a little tete-a-tete with somebody that knows what they're talking about. It's never going to happen. People say, why do you even ask them to come? To show people that I constantly ask people to come on the show who would be happy to shred my message, such as YouTube. As soon as they find this, they're going to tear it up. Obviously, we're not doing well enough for them to carry that out. So, yeah, what's happening in the legal world right now? We'll find out.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody. 921.
Yeah. Okay. 921. Yeah. Okay. So stop arresting people. Patients, that is, stop arresting them and stop raiding dispensaries, say medical pot users. Well, they sound a bit biased, don't they? So we had the 12th annual Global Marijuana Rally in Halifax. So this story from CBC comes. A rally held in Halifax Saturday highlighted lingering questions for medical cannabis users. Once cannabis is once it's legalized, whenever the hell that is. Dozens of people attended the... Dozens of people! Okay, I can't even read it beyond that. I saw the pictures. It was organized by the Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana Society, a registered not-for-profit organization that advocates for patients. And they have concerns about policing. They're just asking one thing. Please stop arresting patients and stop raiding dispensaries. You talk about caring for people's lives, and then you go and arrest them. It's crazy. So that's what they need to do everywhere, but thanks Nova Scotia for piping up on that one. But it's not just terrible news. Check this out. This is from recently on Fox 4. Coming from, I don't know, some Fox station. Washington, this is on the AP Wire. FPI Management, a property company in California, wants to hire dozens of people. Maybe they should go to Nova Scotia and hire the people that were at the march. They were going to hire dozens of people. Factories from New Hampshire to Michigan need workers. Hotels in Las Vegas are desperate to fill jobs. And so those employers and many others are quietly taking what once would have been a radical step. They're dropping marijuana from the drug tests they require of prospective employees, and fucking like that, it's over. So, why can't the cops seem to do that? Marijuana testing, a fixture at large American employers for the last 30 years, excludes too many potential workers, experts say. The people with the rights to use cannabis that would like to use it to eliminate their pain while they pull down an income. How about those folks? Yeah, they're going to drop that. Caesars is dropping pre-employment marijuana testing in Vegas. It has come out of nowhere, says Michael Clarkson, head of the drug testing practice at Ogletree Deacons, a law firm. I've heard from lots of clients things like, I can't staff a third shift and I can't test for marijuana. So I guess they're just going to drop that regulation. That's how simple it needs to be, Kathleen Wynne and the cops and everybody else in Canada. That's how simple it needs to be. They just look at it and they go, oh, this is screwed up. Okay, let's stop doing it. Because now we proceeded to THC and DUIs. As legalization approaches, will our roads be safe? And I've talked about this a million times, so go back to a previous episode. I was going to tee this up again, but man, I'm just telling you, you can't prove someone is impaired simply because they are testing positive for cannabis. Take a second. Skip back 10 seconds on your little player. Listen to that again. You cannot prove, it is unprovable, it cannot be proven, that someone who is testing positive for cannabis is also impaired. Now, sometimes a person who has taken a lot of cannabis recently is impaired. But the amount of time cannabis stays in your body because it's a food, because it's a nutrient, because your body's trying to hang on to it, it does not indicate, and these cops need to know that. Everybody needs to know that. So tell everybody that. When you sit down at dinner tonight, say, did you know that it's impossible? What do you mean, son? I mean that if I take a gram right now, I'll be okay. And if you take 3 or 4 rice grains and it's your first time ever, you're going to be on the moon. That's what I mean. And we are all relying on the decency of the police to be able to carry this stuff out. But a man unlawfully detained in a psychiatric unit for tweeting is a little bit upset about some of this. They put him in jail because he was tweeting about the possibility. He was looking at the fact that these particular cops had done some heavy stuff that they shouldn't have done. And so he tweeted about it, so they put him in the clink. They put him in a psychiatric facility. He's a Happy Valley Goose Bay man held in psychiatric unit because of his tweets and its unlawful detainment. And so rules the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador. It was a long legal battle for this guy because that's what they like to do to you. Suck your lifeblood out like deer ticks. Took a while longer than he was expecting to get through the process. But he was escorted by cops to the Western Memorial Regional Hospital in Corner Brook where he lived. Because he was tweeting his anger about the fatal shooting of Don Dunphy of Mitchell's Brook, Newfoundland, 2 days earlier. So he gets upset about a guy getting killed that shouldn't have been by the cops, complains about it, and the cops put him in the clink. So these are the folks that we ran to initially to get our shit together. I mean, can you believe it? To get our legal framework together for cannabis, we went to police. And I think we show almost every show that there's all kinds of police activity that would nullify the the veracity, the wiseness of making that choice. I don't know, man. I don't know what we could do about it except know about it and don't take that shit. You know, basically just don't take that shit at all. So let's do a commercial before we bring on our guest. All right. Yeah, but I'm going to use this global mind control tactic anyway because I have to do this. We're doing a commercial, and I'm looking forward to working with some people who are very coolly minded. This is amazing to me. We have teamed up with Ross's Gold Glass and West Coast Gifts to present a new contest. So I'll be talking about that constantly for the next few weeks for a 24-karat gold logo, 12-inch low roller black glass water pipe with matching stem and bowl. We weren't going to give you all that without the matching stem and bowl. Entered to win on Green Crush socials, so just dial up at Green Crush Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The winner will be announced live on the air May 22nd. That's a couple more Tuesdays away, just in time for the Toronto Lift Expo, where we will also be showing up and shaking hands and meeting people, trying to get the word out, looking at nervous security guards and cops at the foot of the escalator on the way in. That's on Saturday and Sunday, May 26th, 27th. So, just before the Lift Expo, maybe you just won a fantastic Ross's Gold Glass, a 24K gold logo, 12-inch low roller black glass water pipe with matching stem and bowl. I mean, I just said that twice without... Oh, that's amazing. I don't know how I got that out of there. Be sure to visit Ross's Gold Glass and West Coast Gifts booth at the Lift Expo. I'm sure I'll be there. And I will be going to that. And stay tuned to Green Crush for bonus chances to win tickets to the event. Okay, so that's the Lift event, and we are definitely looking forward to going to that. But right now, I'm going to call our guest, Alicia, and she's going to tell us her horrifying story. From what I understand, it is a horrifying story. But she's turned it around, and that's what this is all about. So we're giving her a ringy-ding on in Saskatchewan time. Here we go.
Hi.
Hi there, Alicia. Thank you so much for holding. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So I want you to tell the folks what's going on with your... we always go back to this point where you were just a normal, regular person living your normal, regular life, and then some things happened that made you change your perspective on a lot of things, including the plant that you say saved your life from an allopathic medicine hell. And I share that with you. You're like my sister in that front. So I want to hear all about it and tell the folks, where you were and how you started to experiment with it and understand how effective it was.
Awesome. Okay. So I guess I'll take you right back to the beginning when I first started experiencing car accidents.
Oh.
So I was in 8 car accidents, starting from the time when I was 13 years old. By the time I was 16, I had 2 knee surgeries. And for those knee surgeries, I was prescribed deadly NSAID painkillers. And so the doctor said, no, don't worry. These pills, you won't get addicted to them. They're not narcotics. You can take them as you wish. So, okay, my parents and I believed that this was the medicine. This was going to help relieve the pain from my knee, from chronic pain. So fast forward, and a few more car accidents, let's say probably 4 more car accidents.
I'm gonna ask you about that later on, but go ahead. Go ahead with your story.
For sure. So then by the time I'm 20, I'm going to Wascana Rehab. It's a local place where they send you when you're in a car accident for rehabilitation. And so they're making me run on a treadmill thinking that this is going to help my injuries. Okay. So my philosophy on physical therapy is, wow, comparing to yoga and what the benefits are, It boggles my mind why anyone would go to physiotherapy. So, okay, long story short, I start vomiting green stuff.
Okay, fantastic. Now, if anybody's, I'm going to say this almost happens every show, and it's usually my fault. If you're listening to this at lunch tomorrow or the day after, why don't you just wait a couple hours and then listen to it? Okay, so you're vomiting green stuff, so you're like Linda Blair in The Exorcist at this point, just really letting it loose.
Yeah, exactly, and pooping black.
Oh, wow. No, that is fantastic.
And my poor eyes, the whites of them are red, like I look evil.
Uh-huh. Well, I was going to say that when you had the black poop and the green puke and the red eyes, I mean, you should be on a different show, like some kind of paranormal thing. So
right.
And so were you upset? I'm making fun of it because you're through it. Okay, you understand that? I'm not giving you a hard time.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate the humor in it.
Okay,
for sure. Because it was looking back, holy cow, I must have looked.
Did you take some pictures? Photographs?
No, actually, you know what? I have no pictures of when I was so sick. I guess because it was in 2003, right? So it wasn't during a time when selfies and stuff was widely available.
Yeah, I remember it fondly. Yeah, I remember the time fondly. Yeah. Anyway, so you didn't have any pictures of yourself.
No, you couldn't even take cell phones in the hospitals then. They were all paranoid that it would interfere with equipment.
Yeah. Plus, it was too big.
I appreciate that it was that long ago.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we're just goofing around. But listen, you're pooping black, you're puking green, you got red eyes. Then what happened?
So I go for this, oh my God, horrible test. If anyone ever tells you to have a barium enema, just refuse.
Oh.
That was hell on earth.
You sound like you had a good time with it.
Yeah, it was great. And so they wouldn't let me leave the radiology place because they're afraid that I'm on my deathbed and they don't know how I'm even walking, right?
Right.
So then I get admitted to the hospital and I disclose that I've been taking Vioxx.
Oh, yeah. Now, who gave you that? Because that's a heart medication, isn't it? Or it was?
No, actually, Vioxx is a painkiller, but it proved to be very dangerous for the heart.
Oh, for the heart, right, it was. Okay.
And so the makers of it knew this because it came out in a study and they just pushed it under the rug. Vioxx is a very toxic substance.
Yeah.
And they were handing it out like candy back in the day, in the early 2000s.
Sure.
That was the very first pharmaceutical sample.
Wow. Okay, so
with Vioxx.
So now we're still stuck with you with this horrible discharge and eyeball color. So I'm fixating on that because I want to know how you specifically got out of that mess.
So I get discharged from the hospital with a bag of pills. Literally, it was a lunch bag of pills. I started taking 40 pills a day.
Yeah.
And just got sicker and sicker. So fast forward. About 7 years of this hell, it was just misery going in and out of the hospital, subscribing to this Western idea of medicine which was just atrocious. So anyways, fast forward, I'm at a restaurant with some friends and I'm having a Crohn's attack in the restaurant and my only option was to go outside on the deck or try and make it to the bathroom because I was going to crap myself basically.
Right.
So I go outside onto the deck where two of my friends were smoking reefer, right? Like I was just like dead set against it. I was like, whatever, you guys are, bozos, whatever. So they see me basically make my way onto the deck, like keeled over in pain. And they're like, we should just try this. So I was like, what if I got to lose? I'm like going to crap myself in public. I took a hoot of this joint, and within seconds, I was like, oh my God. Like, I pulled myself out of this like rank Crohn's attack that I would have had I not had that hoot. And then I went back into the restaurant and finished my salad.
Oh, good. That's amazing. So you started to realize that this thing is working, and then you're also dealing with stigma from other people's perceptions, right?
Okay, so then fast forward, because I used to live inside the box in the closet. I was often scared, but then I started reaching out to compassion clubs because I was like, hey, I need this medicine. Like this medicine, like changed my entire life. It helped me get off opiates. It just changed my entire perspective of the way in which I live my life. And so when I finally truly discovered that cannabis is what saved my life, I dedicated my life to, I guess, enslaving that plant, right? Because that's what saved me, right? So I guess my niche market is legal stuff. I appreciate the law and what it can and cannot do, and so I've always kind of been a vocal activist in terms of wanting justice per se. And so my main focus at this point in the game, because I've got my health back per se, and I'm very grateful for that. But
you got your hair back? You lost your hair, didn't you? You lost some hair to methotrexate, was that right?
Yeah.
And
so I have long, beautiful hair right to my butt.
Oh wow!
So for me, losing hair was like probably one of the cruelest like jokes of the whole like illness, right? Yeah. Amongst other things, right? But so I guess fundamentally, like my Crohn's diagnosis, I believe, is a facade. It was that I had a Vioxx gastric injury, and my doctor wasn't articulate enough or didn't take the time to make the connection, and I was misdiagnosed. So I was treated with a bunch of pills that I didn't need. My body would have healed itself from the Vioxx had I not been given all of these pharmaceuticals, which just pushed me in to drug addiction, anorexia, just worse conditions, like sleep deprivation, like the list goes on and on and on.
Let me ask you something about that list before we get to. Let me ask you about that list of growing medications. So when you were being prescribed, let's say a handful of things, did you find it at that time, and please be honest, because I'm happy to do this, and it's not the answer you might think, when you were using several of the drugs because they prescribed them, were you the person who was saying, oh, I'm also having this other thing, which was a side effect of one of the drugs, so then they gave you another drug? So sometimes the doctor will initiate that, and sometimes people will actually ask for that, and then you take that next drug, and then it has a spider web of effects, and you need something to remedy one of those side effects. Did you go down that road yourself personally, or was your doctor kind of driving that train?
Oh my gosh, no. I was at the doctor every week, because once you start going to the doctor, it's like a perpetual cycle. Once you have one test, then you need another test. So every part of my body was involved because of my Crohn's disease. My bladder started becoming involved, my joints, my this, my that. And it was to the point where it's like I could have taken 80 pills a day.
Wow. Yeah, okay. So you're in that
the
soup.
kicker is...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so you're in that soup at that point of taking all, I mean, you've got this giant list here of Remicade and methotrexate and the Pantasa and Entocort and all these different things. I mean, did you even know what they were for while you were taking them?
No.
Huh.
And the thing is the side effects. No one ever said, oh, hey, by the way, like the side effect of this is you're going to puke your brains out for 4 days, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no pill on this earth that you can swallow to counteract the effects of chemotherapy. But here, you can try.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And so therein is the beauty of cannabis. So people want to squawk about, smoking cannabis. Well, sometimes you have no choice, because you need that medicine, and it gets into your lungs and it stops that vomiting like nothing else.
Right.
Right?
Have you found favor with your parents or your loved ones? I mean, or are you dealing with stigma and shame from anyone in your family? This is a question that I ask so many people because a lot of people look down their noses at it. Do you have to deal with that on a personal level?
To be honest, I'm pretty lucky when it comes to that because my family saw how greatly I suffered.
That's great.
How that I couldn't quit the narcotics, the opiates, right? Like they saw me having to go to a detox center to try and get off these pills. And you know what? That detox center didn't work because I was just filled with more pills and it just replaced the addiction, right? So it helped me none. And it wasn't until cannabis truly came into my life and amplified what it could do that I made that choice to ditch all of the pills. And even though my doctor saw the good that it did for my body, they still wouldn't admit it.
Right.
Except for the select few.
Sure.
Right?
So once again, just to clear up, you were not 24 or 25 years old yet when you started taking cannabis, right? Or were you?
No, I was about probably 26, 27. Like it was
when
late.
You started taking it. Oh, okay. So you're just into the preferred zone of brain damage. You know what I mean? Like they say, people who are up to 24, 25. Now I don't know enough about that to say, and I'm sure some listeners would be surprised to hear me say that. But I don't know what the exact marker is. I just know that if you need it at a younger age, like a little kid who has seizures or something, you just get it in there. You worry about these other issues later. But you didn't even start till you were 25, 26. So you were in the comfort zone of brain development as far as the authorities are concerned. So that's a good thing going in your favor.
Oh, for sure. And I truly believe that my brain was protected by cannabis from all of those pills once I started using. And I think that I didn't kill myself, like not deliberately, but because of overdoses, because of narcotics, because the cannabis somehow protects the body.
Right. It does.
There's new times that I thought I had overdosed because when you take narcotics, your memory goes out the window and it's like, oh, I think I took 4, but oh no, I actually took 5. And then it's like, holy shit, I've overdosed myself. And you know what I mean? So that's a dangerous game.
Yeah, it is. So now you're free and clear of any of these other medications, and you don't suffer from Crohn's disease because you don't really think you even had it. You were just prescribed, you were just diagnosed as such.
Correct. And so now today, I guess I live with repairing my body from the damage that's been done by Western medicine. Because as much as I would like to believe that my Crohn's disease is gone, there's still a whole host of problems that were caused because of that. And so I'm healing. Every day I'm healing. Yeah. Will I ever get the health that I had before? No. Why? Because of the pharmaceuticals.
Okay. Well, that's a long ride. That's you have to double. You've been dealt a hand, and you have to play that hand. Okay, so I hate to do this to you, but I'm so curious. I'm going to do it anyway. In the retelling of your story, I think you mentioned something around the neighborhood of 46 car collisions or something, or maybe it was just. How did you get into so many accidents? What was it? Seriously, 8 or 10 accidents in a car? How did really?
Well, it's actually the official number is 9.
9. Oh, okay, actually, only 9. All right.
Only 2 were my fault.
I
was
see.
at fault.
You were driving twice. You were driving, and it was your fault. The other 7 times was somebody else.
Correct.
Oh. And were you always?
And in Saskatchewan,
go ahead.
We have a no-fault system, right? So it's kind of.
Well, I guess that's what makes going into so many car accidents so appealing.
Oh no. But the injuries, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm still dealing with stuff like whiplash, with my neck and stuff. But that's why I say, in terms of physiotherapy, I went through so much physiotherapy, it did nothing. And then I started practicing yoga and using cannabis at the same time, and it was oh my gosh, my body is just singing, just loving it, right? So these insurance companies, they're selective in what they cover in terms of, quote, rehabilitation, but the research just doesn't support what they're saying. SGI, my car insurance company, paid for the Vioxx that I took that made me so sick.
Attaboy. That's great.
And And then when I went back to say, hey, can you pay for my cannabis because this actually helps me, this
No.
heals me.
Oh, no, they can't
Yeah,
do that.
exactly.
I know. So you're working against that now, right? You're trying to turn that around. That's one of your focuses at PACE, is it?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm a co-host at PACE, and so we have a variety of different guests who come on who tell their stories with cannabis or share their cannabis work, which I greatly love and appreciate because it gives people an opportunity to get on that soapbox, to have that platform and say, hey, look, you know what? The research is the research, but personal testimonies is what's factual, is what's important.
Yeah.
How many people get on a soapbox and say, hey, guess what? This Vioxx has helped me greatly. Like,
nobody says that.
right?
Yeah, they
No.
say, you know what? They say, you know what? Vioxx killed my uncle. They say stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it should be,
Exactly.
I think it really should be a hemp box if you're going to stand on a thing like that at all, given what we're talking about.
Good
here.
point.
Um,
Good point. Love
I
it.
try to bring it in every time, at some point. Yeah. So now, what's this? Tell us about your battles back and forth with. I mentioned them earlier on the show. They illegally imprisoned a man, claiming he was needed psychiatric attendance. However, he was just tweeting he was rather upset that the local detachment had killed his friend. But this is the RCMP. You're out in Saskatchewan. What kind of thing you say you're tangoing with the RCMP? So what does that involve, and what exactly? How would you characterize your interactions with them?
Okay. So unfortunately, I'm not sure if, well, I know that Depot is the training depot, which is in Regina, Saskatchewan, which
Right.
trains every single Mountie in the country.
Right.
So they don't have a policy to train their recruits on medical marijuana in any capacity.
Seriously,
So-
at all?
If I would love to see it. I've been requesting it through
wow.
information requests, and it doesn't seem to exist, or it's this like ironclad like secret policy, right?
Not at all surprised. Okay.
Yeah, no, well, unfortunately, right? So they have this tradition, and I have like a list of people that this has had happened to, is that they'll, as soon as you say that you have a medical marijuana license, they'll find a reason to arrest you.
I
Doesn't
can
matter
see.
if you're
Yeah, sure. That's
if
going to
you're
happen.
in compliance with every little stipulation to the law. They'll say, you know what? It smells like you have 10 grams over what you're prescribed, so you're coming with us.
Wow. Yeah,
And
that's
then
great.
here's the kicker, though. They'll put you in a cage, and then they'll tell you, well, you can't access your medicine that we have in our possession, but we'll take you to the local hospital or doctor, and we'll give you opiates to cure your pain.
Have you been through this personally?
Yes, but I guess for me it was a different situation because they were trying to entice my parents to bring cannabis to the detachment so that I could allegedly smoke it in my cell.
Oh, sure. Like they were going to let you do that. Or why would they arrest you? I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Like, why would they arrest you in the first place? They said, yeah, go ahead and use the stuff that we arrested you for. That's ridiculous.
No, well, they arrested me for criminally harassing 2 police officers.
Oh, what did you do?
So they alleged that I was criminally harassing them, and basically through email, but what I did was I sent them an email asking them to investigate the theft of my missing marijuana from the bus depot.
Oh, wow. So
So that was a hard job for them to do. So instead of doing that, they put a warrant out for my arrest, alleging that I had criminally harassed 2 2 RCMP officers.
Yeah. That's a fun bunch of folks. I'm sure they're not all insane.
The silver lining is I took it to trial and I won. I was found not guilty.
Oh, fantastic. Now, how much time and effort did that take you?
Oh, gosh. That was like probably 2 years of court appearances and just a variety of running around, like kissing the ass of the state for what?
Yeah, to get to the point 2 years later where you're just as clean as you were before they arrested you. And you've wasted all that time and energy.
And so in a civil sense, I now filed a lawsuit against them saying, hey, wait a minute, that's incorrect.
Yeah.
no one should be able to like say, you know what, your charter right to cannabis, it doesn't apply here. Like, that's dangerous.
Did you ever ask them, considering they don't have any training, etc., what have you, on cannabis, but like, where do they get the information to go ahead and arrest people with it? I mean, that they must be getting some information. to why would they even try to look for it? You know, I mean, maybe I'm not being clear enough. What I'm saying is, if they don't have information, it's like when they say, oh, this stuff, we don't have enough information on it right now. There's not enough science behind. We're still looking. And then they'll say, right after that, they'll say, hey, this is bad stuff and it's dangerous and we're going to arrest people for it because they're going to ruin their lives with it. It's like, well, where did you get that information? Well, we know things. But I thought you didn't do the research. Well, we haven't. But anyway, and then you're doing that dance.
Well, see, with the RCMP, they have these fancy little posters that they put on the wall of all of the drugs that and how to identify them.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for the little cannabis like box where it's like, this is hash, and it's so far-fetched. Just it's like you see why they walk around like a bunch of baboons applying the law so frivolously because they're not trained.
Yeah.
So it becomes an ego power trip. And especially with marijuana, it's like, oh, God forbid. Like, no, it's still illegal in their minds.
Wow.
So that's how they act.
So going back to you, your painful pancreatitis is no more. Your Crohn's was never that, and it isn't something that troubles you now anyway. And you're good and clear, and you work towards a full, healthful state by taking cannabis regularly. Is that right?
Correct.
And how do you take it regularly? Are you smoking joints? You got a bong? You doing oil? Are we talking about putting it where the black poop came out, or are you making tea? What's happening?
So I do a variety of different stuff, but what's important to keep my body healthy and in remission and working against all the pharmaceuticals that I had ingested, which most of them, all of the side effects are cancer. I take a gram of RSO every day.
And when did you start doing that?
It was probably a few years ago, because up until then in Saskatchewan, it was a scarce market here. Like you could barely find just bud, never mind products like that.
Yeah, well, all those policemen getting trained down there, it's kind of a bad area to grow.
You know what? There's an illegal dispensary right across the street from Depot in Regina, Saskatchewan. What does that tell you?
Yeah. Well, hang on a second. We're going to take a call from our crazy friend in the States. Hang on one second. Hello?
There is a prosperity angel that you must call in the next 24 hours to get back this money. Press the numerical button 1 now. Press the numerical button 1 now. There is a prosperity angel that you must call on to release this money that the enemy keeps on taking and stealing through individuals, through situations. Press the numerical button 1 now. Press the number 1 now on your telephone. There's been things that have happened.
All right, that's enough of that guy. Did you hear that at all?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll hear it later on the show. We get this guy that calls in every day. He's some kind of preacher, and he's looking for my credit card. Now, pull out your credit card now. Anyway, it's fun. We'll hear later. So sorry about that. I always have to. I can't believe he calls every time I do a show. That's unreal. And it's a robot thing. Okay, so
cool.
back to your health and situation. So now, I love how you said in your I guess press release about how you were sicker, weaker, sadder. Now you're using a gram of RSO a day, and you've been doing that exactly for how long, Zori?
So about 2 years.
2 years, and this is every single day. So you've done approximately 750 or so of these things in a row.
Yep.
And are you getting any kind of medical coverage for this, or do you have to fork out of pocket?
No, I have to fork out of pocket, but I am suing SGI, which is the insurance company who paid for the Vioxx that made me sick.
Wow.
But unfortunately, we're stalled in court because they're withholding the documents that say I'm right. So.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I went after their doctor who tried to discredit my doctor. And so I'm waiting for that decision from the courts as to whether or not it's a morality issue that a doctor can get on a little soapbox and make up a bunch of horse crap to discredit other people's doctors so that they don't get paid.
Wow. It's such a dirty little scam, right? And you know what it
Right?
comes. Yeah, it comes back to what? What does it come back to? I mean, you had to learn this at your tender age. You weren't even 30 yet when you realized all this.
Well, and the thing is like when the accident that occurred, that I actually took the NSAID painkillers for, I was 16. I was a minor.
Right.
And they knew that, and so they played on that, because in their files it says right in there, like the adjuster wrote, that my Crohn's disease was caused because of the Vioxx that I took at a young age.
Wow, amazing. Okay, now to get to the mending part of things, I really want you to pick apart for me, because when people hear the phrase physiotherapy or what have you, they think of a worker who is helping them through maybe learning how to walk again. They're perceived as a necessary human tool in the rebuilding of one's muscles. Or I went through it. I didn't do any yoga. I went through physiotherapy, and so I'm not here to mock what you're saying. I'm here to understand better what you're saying. Okay, so I do get sarcastic at times, but I don't mean any kind of detraction from your story.
Oh, for sure.
How can you tell me about what exactly, in your experience, you don't have to broadsheet it, but how is it so wrong? And then tell me the difference between how wrong it is and why that is, and how right that is with cannabis. Because if I were taking, and I didn't, but if I were taking cannabis oil prior to my rehab sessions, that might have made them easier as well. And you're saying that helps you with your yoga. So what's the deal with them? Like, why do you have a problem with physiotherapy? And maybe you're right, and I'm wide open to hearing about it. This is not a criticism. I'm just curious. I've not heard this.
So I guess for me, it just dawned on me, maybe the reason physiotherapy was ineffective for me during that time is because I was taking pharmaceuticals. So my body was already under attack. So how is it going to heal from these car accidents, right? Because don't forget, I was running on a treadmill, meanwhile taking Vioxx, and it was like eating my intestines like a badger. Yeah. But the scary thing with NSAIDs is that you don't know until it's too late, until it's done so much damage to your intestines that you're like near death, like I was. And that's acknowledged in study after study. And not only does it attack your guts, but it attacks your immune system. That's what toxins do. And so when you deconstruct the immune system, well, what do you have left? And those pharmaceuticals just can attack like every system in your body. And if you have doctors who aren't taught about the cannabinoid system, how are you ever supposed to heal someone? Like, we completely ignore that in our medical education. Well, in Saskatchewan, we do. Yeah. We have a medical school that doesn't teach about the cannabinoid system. So what I'm saying is, when it comes to physiotherapy, it seems as though it's like a westernized thing. And don't get me wrong, it probably helps for some people. But I'm just saying, from my perspective.
Yeah, no, from your perspective, fair enough. That's all. Yeah, I wanted to hear about it.
My most effective tool has been yoga, because it gives me the ability to stretch my spine. Whereas physiotherapy, you can isolate certain parts of the body, but how does it stretch your spine? When you're in a car accident, you need to stretch your spine. Otherwise, it's going to stay locked. It's going to stay hurt. Yeah. And that's the fundamental difference that I noticed, was that the spine stayed the same. The hip injury, well, it got a little better, but then once the spine was angry, well, it was all angry. Mm-hmm. But going to yoga and these different like critical alignment classes and yin restorative yoga, like I'm not going to like Ashtanga yoga, like kick your butt yoga, but those classes that nourish the body, and then couple that with cannabis, like that's that's therapy to me. And so when I asked my car insurance company to cover that, they were like, oh yeah, okay. But there's just no scientific, like there's research study after research study that suggests yoga can create positive change for a variety of different health ailments, including injury.
So you're doing two of those at the same time. Are you taking the cannabis just before yoga and getting high and then starting, or is it not that synced up?
No, for sure. So it's a bit like a huge part of Ganja yoga is knowing your body, because when you're under the influence of cannabis, you can stretch too far. Right. But when you know yourself and you know your injuries and you just know your body, the alignment of those two things creates just this phenomenal experience, because you can overcome any type of physical ailment, mental ailment.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Huh. That's pretty cool. So let me just ask you a couple more questions here before we get going. I'm really fascinated about this. You are taking a gram. So when you take your gram, are you just eating it, or how do you take it? Your daily gram of oil.
So what I do is I get it in syringes, and I'll just put it in a little gel cap, and I'll just swallow it like a pill.
Oh, okay, great. That's what I've done. And you do that in the morning, or just before you go to bed, or how do you do this?
I usually do it in the morning, and then I find that my body pain is really diminished by probably lunch, and it's like, oh, I'm good to go, right?
Oh, okay, fantastic. Yeah, because I do recommend some people who are, let's say, new at it and might be a little bit rattled by some of the low-level psychoactivity, and there should be very little if you're taking it properly at the beginning. You need to sort of slowly bring it into your existence, and don't just start off with a gram a day. So, okay, kids, so anybody listening at home, don't just start wolfing down a gram a day of this oil. Our guest has been doing it daily for 2 years. So do you get any psychoactivity from it? Because I noticed that, at the beginning, it's kind of difficult to load up these small doses, and then until you build up your tolerance, and then it's easy, and you're taking a gram a day, and it's easy. Like you say, you shoot it into a pill cap, and that's it. And so do you find that you get any high sensation at all anymore from it on a regular basis, or not at all, or how would you characterize it?
To be honest, and unfortunately, no, I don't usually experience the effects of the THC. Some days I do, like if I have a nice hot latte, almond milk latte in the morning, and then it'll kind of activate it. But yeah, no, not like you would think, right?
Yeah, no, I know, that's the thing. That's the trade-off, isn't it? And that's what makes me so frustrated about the driving issue. I mean, you get to the point where you're literally jamming it in there, a gram a day, boom, 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 and you're completely sober, completely with your faculties. And yet, if you were just to start out and you had a couple of pinheads here and there and then took like a half a syringe, you'd be on the moon, right? So, I mean, this is the science that they don't have, and they don't have machines to prove it, and they're just sort of flexing their muscle anyway and say, oh, well, that's too bad. If we have it in you, then you're guilty, and it's just bullshit. I mean, that's the thing we have to get past as well as a society. I mean, you're going to have people that rightfully are using it recreationally, getting in trouble, pulled over, and rightfully using it medicinally, and they'll be getting pulled over. No, you're not supposed to drive when you're high, but you will be testing people will be testing positive for cannabis and swearing they're not high, and the cops will be telling them the same pile of shit they told you when they took you to jail, and the guy from Newfoundland, etc.
Exactly.
Oh boy. Okay.
Well, and the thing is, I guess it'll just become another civil rights issue that the cannabis community will need to crush, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well, let me ask you a few more things, because I really want to understand your usage. Everybody has a different way and a pattern. So if you're doing a gram a day, that is a pound every 2 months. And so I was asking you about financial compensation, but I just wanted to understand how exactly it is that you are able to maintain that kind of dosage, basically half a pound a month. That's a lot of material to use to make your stuff. Or do you already get it made, or do you make it yourself? How do you actually make this happen for you?
So I'm pretty lucky. I have a really, really good connection in Vancouver, and so
do you know how many people say that to me constantly?
I know, right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm like advanced medication as I need it, contingent on them being plaintiffs in a lawsuit against a variety of different defendants.
Holy.
So basically, they have the expectation that they'll get paid one day once this makes its way through the court system.
Oh, good for you. So there are a lot of benevolent distributors and et cetera in this business, by the way. That's a very lovely situation you've got yourself into. And the amount of compassion and understanding and provided goods by so many people, not everybody all the time, of course, but I run into it constantly, and you never hear like, "Oh, you need Vioxx? We'll tell you what, the pharmacy will just give you that at cost for the next one." They never tell you that shit, right? So it's just amazing how you do have that kind of thing in cannabis world. You have this creativity. You're another person. You're another notch on my belt, okay? At least with this thing, because you're another person who, through this thing of my own searching and this show that's come of it. So many people, such as yourself, myself, so many people, you get dealt this bad hand, and then you turn it around into something positive and live your own life with that positivity, but also bring it to others. So thanks for doing that. And do you grow your own?
I used to have growers. I'm actually in the process of locating another one because I find that that's probably one of the best ways to get your medicine in terms of knowing what's in it, right?
Yeah.
I think right now I'm on a board that's trying to start a growers coalition, which is basically a kickback of the LP system.
Right.
So basically we want to have a strong structure so that if any one of us is touched, that we can just go to the courts and say, "Oh no, wait a minute," just as they've kind of created their own monopoly.
Wow. So that's what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about Saskatchewan's whatever it is you guys have pending legally. How's that going to affect you personally? Whatever your take is on the new laws and legalization, etc. And then we'll have you on another time.
Sounds good. So I guess our system is premised on this monopoly-based thing that anyone from the government and their fat buddies can open up a store, but where they're getting their product is probably likely LPs, which is like, oh, okay, who are you kidding? But I mean, they can give it a go. But fundamentally, that's why the Saskatchewan Growers Coalition will step in and take over, because they can't support the rec market. People aren't going to want to smoke shitty LP weed.
No. Why do you think it's going to be shitty? Tell us this. I already know the answer, but tell me anyway.
So we're the home of cannameds, and cannameds used to be Prairie Plant Systems, which is the shittiest marijuana I've ever seen on this earth, and they were subsidized by our government, our tax dollars, to grow this shitty marijuana and send it to sick and dying people across Canada. And when those people said, "You know what, you people are out of your minds, I'm not paying for this marijuana," they took their tax refunds.
Yeah.
From Prairie Plant Systems. So at the end of the day, I believe that those LPs have A, genetically modified genetics, B, that their growing practices are outdated and sometimes probably should be illegal, and I think that their main focus is gross profit margins.
And what's the name of that company again in the first place, the original one that was so terrible?
Oh, Prairie Plant Systems. So they were the very first company contracted by Health Canada in 2001, when Terry Parker won, that's the government system that provided this crappy marijuana. And I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but
no, I've heard it. It was dusty chuff, just really dried out and crappy. Is that really what was going on there? That was prior to my knowledge or involvement with any of this. So is that what it was like?
Well, this is why I say it should be illegal. Like, basically, it's just like, it's garbage. Like, it's a bunch of mulched stems and plants. But the thing is those genetics were originally confiscated from a Hells Angels grow up bust in Ontario that they kept like breeding over and over again. And so by the time that that medicine, that is disgusting. That's why I say, if the LPs follow the same guidelines that Prairie Plant System has, that marijuana that people are smoking, you want to talk about mental illness, well, there you go. That's the fruition of, you know what I mean, mental illness. So
well, yeah, we already had Organigram out in New Brunswick or whatever with their organic gram company, not knowing exactly where why they had substances in there that weren't. It's like, well, we don't know how that got in there. How about don't have them in the perimeter of your building if that's the name of your company? You know, it's like a vegetarian restaurant getting caught with a steak going, I don't know how they got on the grill. Well, don't have any steak in a restaurant if it's a vegetarian restaurant. I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
Exactly.
Amazing. So tell us about Pace a little bit. Tell us where we can find you again, and tell us what you're up to. Where are you on Twitter? You know, all those things. Hit us up.
I can be found at Facebook /SaskMed. That's our Facebook page. or on Pace Radio, or is it pace.com? I think it is.
Well, it's your thing. I don't know exactly. Is it pace.com or? I think it's. Oh, this is fun. Okay, my headphone just broke. Hang on. Keep looking, and then tell us whether it's .com or .ca, and I'll be right back. Oh, shoot balls, man! This thing is. The little bracket came out of here. This is done. Anyway, yeah. Okay, we just went through. Got my. How's that? Does that look okay? That's some top quality stuff. We'll be getting a new pair of headphones here at the old studio. I'm doubting that, not one bit. Anyway, so okay. Well, did you find out where you're from?
I did. So it's pace/online.ca.
And when can we hear you there, Alicia?
Every second Wednesday at 8 p.m. your time, 6 p.m. Saskatchewan time.
Okay. Well, listen, I beg of you, never get into a car accident again. You've had your fair shake. You never want to do that again. You're done. You don't drive now. Do you still drive?
I do drive.
Okay, well, be careful. And, check your bumper. Make sure it's firmly attached to both the front and rear of the car. I'm just kidding.
Awesome. I think that we need to just start training drivers in Saskatchewan a little better.
That is a good point. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you and the listeners something that was on my mind greatly today while I was driving into this city, and that is that these folks in the left lane have got to get the hell out of it. They're going the same speed as the guys in the middle lane or the center lane. I don't understand why they don't get out of the way. It's a passing lane. If you don't know this, I think it should be harder to get a license. You should be able to weave through pylons in reverse at 50K on a wet surface before they give you your friggin' license, is what I think. And you'd have less accidents, you have fewer accidents, you have fewer claims, fewer injuries, fewer hospital visits, et cetera, et cetera. But on that note.
And they should cover marijuana because then they'd have people healed from their injuries.
Yeah, on that note, thank you very much for coming on the show, Alicia. And take this with you, too. Bring this up on your show today, okay? Because I wish I got to talk about it more and we got carried away with some things. But on the medical note, folks, let's forget about the fact that it's a crutch when you're okay with prescription drugs that are far more crutchy and more than a crutch, a pipeline into the pockets of the pharma purveyors that bring it to you. But also, how about this? We need to get more research going, and you can start right away with practical research for burn victims, okay? You make the right oily, creamy kind of thing out of this stuff and slather it all over you. I got a deep, deep cut in my finger about 4 months ago that you cannot find the scar. You can't find it. It's not there. And this needs to be applied to burn victim testing. That's some of the most horrifying mishap you're ever going to go through in your life, a burn victim, and this stuff can regenerate skin so very well. Even if you don't care about opioid addiction, if you're that much of a monster or anything else, take a look into what burn victims can benefit from using cannabis oil and cannabis applications and creams. That's a big, scary, horrible problem, but check it out, folks in charge, and stop telling us how it doesn't work and just chart and notate how it does. So take that on your show tonight and talk about that, because people always think about it in the medical sense of pain relief, and that's all great, and we need that, and more people experience that. But take a look at the science behind the burn, the skin repair. It's unbelievable.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, take a look into that. That's something we don't often think about. But listen, Alicia, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been speaking with Alicia Ducabor, a veteran of several accidents and the medical system. And she now lives a very productive life and has... Your hair's grown back, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm glad you're all in one piece and that you are an advocate for this wonderful plant. And you and I are brother and sister on that level. Just about everybody on the show is, and I'm so happy to meet another one because it's a magic potion and we need to be allowed to have it. So thanks for being a strong voice.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having your show.
Oh, thank you. No problem. I had no other choice. So you know how it is. You just have to get involved and do what you can, right? So That's all this
for
is.
sure.
So thanks very much. We will we'll talk to you again sometime, and check us out on our socials at Green Crush Pod, and you will find ways to enter and win contests there. And hopefully, Alicia will have you back sometime. And if you get some kind of progress or any event turns your way, please do contact us and let us know, and we'd like to follow up.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
That was Alicia Dukabor, everybody, and that was a pretty cool conversation. We had a lot of information based on the fact that what happened to her can happen to almost anybody, and you can wind up very quickly on the bad end of pharmaceutical problems and other medical ailments that can be better served with this other wonderful plant. Joined in the studio now at this time. Near the end of the show, but still part of the show. Here he is, our regular, sometimes shooting straight from the hip co-host, Paul Hartman. How's it going, Paul?
Oh, Lord.
Well,
I'm back in Toronto. What a beautiful day it is.
It is a nice day.
At the Pacific Junction Hotel.
It is the specific function of this hotel to provide Pacific junctions of conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
So
and it's an intersection of all kinds of knowledge.
It is. It is an intersection of knowledge. Did you hear Alicia at all? Were you able to catch some of that?
I did hear some of it. Yeah, it was very cool stuff.
Yeah, she's another go-getter. So young,
Yes.
Just found out so young. I was already a cynical old bastard by the time I learned this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she came in at it about the right age, perfect timing, 25,
What do you
26.
mean was a cynical old bastard?
Well, I mean, I was when I got it. Because back when I was her age, I guess I wasn't that cynical. You have to take in a few facts to
probably. Well, you were a bastard because that would have happened at birth.
I was a bastard. Yeah, I was a bastard. My mom made that clear several
Speaking
times.
of bastards,
yes,
the great Sam Malachi has written a wonderful book.
Oh, he is a bastard.
Yes.
Yeah, we
of the best caliber.
Let me make sure that this is on the camera. Can we
Sam
see Paul there? Okay,
Sam
good.
is an exceptional man.
He's that's the amazing book. I have read it once through, and I'm halfway through the second time.
If you haven't read this, you got to read it, and it's worth $20 for sure. And Sam, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Sam. I'm sure of that.
And why is that? Tell some of the listeners. Some of the listeners are new, and the other ones who've heard it, they can hear it again. It's all true.
Well, I like yourself, I had prostate cancer, and I knew from the beginning that I wasn't going to do the standard route because I'd lost so many friends to the standard route. And my publicist Tracy Lamore also does publicity for Sam, and she connected us in the spring of 2015, and I started my treatment, and I mean, it wasn't but maybe 50 days into my treatment that I went to my new urologist, and he gives me the finger poke up the bum, and he's like, I don't feel anything, it all's normal.
That's
and
what
I
he
was
told
just
you.
like, holy shit, literally.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about Sam. I love him.
And
He's a cool guy. Saint Sam.
Saint Sam. Yeah, check the book out. It's called The Great Cannabis Conspiracy, and it does weave together those two topics.
Yes.
And because the suppression of the information. Now, you're a grower. Right?
Yes, I am.
You want to teach me how to grow, and I don't
That's
know
right.
anything. You're dealing with a blank slate here. Nothing more than the eagerness to learn. So what
I
are the
know.
first couple of things I'm going to learn, or that you would tell someone else who's going to start growing, like how to actually get a foot in the door? You're not just going to walk in and be some master grower at an international firm. How do you even start with this? Because I advocate people having their own plants.
You know, back in my day.
When was that? Yesterday?
A long, long time ago. It was
Oh.
kind of like the beginning of Star Wars, you know, in a galaxy far, far away. The first book on cannabis I read was Ed Rosenthal's deluxe edition of the Marijuana Grower's Guide. And that was a brilliant book. Ed wrote great books. And that book was republished a zillion times. And then Cornell Clark's Marijuana Botany. And it goes on from there. Jorge Cervantes, guys like that. And there's just a zillion books out there now. But the beginning of learning how to grow anything is just getting familiar with what growing anything is. You know, gardening is a high art in itself. So you have to focus on it, and it's about interpreting the needs of the plant based on the environment and all kinds of conditions. Learning about soil and compost is a detailed process, because the health of a plant is totally dependent on the condition of the soil.
Right,
So,
and that's the big problem we have almost anywhere in the world today, right?
Yeah, our soils are dead lots of places, and even if you find a good piece of fallow dirt that's never been touched, it's a different experience.
Oh, we're getting a call in now. That was a different. Yeah, it is. It depends on where you are. So you're in a different part of the world now, and you plan to do some growing sometime soon. You've got some seedlings going. Or?
Oh yeah. I do some every year because I have a medical, and I like to juice it and eat it. And I think I had a long discussion at 420 with a guy about the whole process, because juicing is now kind of coming to be a thing, right?
Right.
And the juicing of cannabis in particular is interesting, because when you take a plant in its natural state and you consume it, logic would tell you that it's in the proportions that a body needs, or a mammal needs, right?
Okay.
Because all mammals have an endocannabinoid system.
These are the receptors that pull in the good stuff from the plant.
Exactly. Like my cat will walk over to a plant and eat a leaf when he feels like he needs it, right?
Right.
And humans, it was probably the same thing for us for a long time, right? In that we probably consumed the seed a lot, so we were getting the hemp seed oil. It's high in protein. It would have made sense that primitive man cultivating hemp for fiber and food would have been consuming any part of it that was edible, right?
Yeah.
We know that the root has been used for thousands of years in different Asian medicines, and it's one that we don't use enough here as well. So, there's so many constitutes of what can be done with the plant that it becomes a very intimate relationship that you have to develop with it.
And does that change when you have various different strains going on? Say, you have a few different kinds of plant. Maybe you have a sativa or two, or a couple of indicas, or
they all have their own characteristics, but they basically do the same thing. They either do it slower or faster, or automatically, or
right.
Now that things like ruderalis have been introduced into strains to create autoflowers.
Wow.
So it's
autoflowers.
Yeah, those are plants that flower based on a clock rather than the photoperiod getting shorter. So a plant in the vegetative state, when it goes in the soil in June, is at 18 hours of sun, and the rest is dark. And then by time it's fully in bloom, it's 12 and 12. Wow. So what triggers blooming is the days getting shorter and the nights getting longer for photoperiod dependent plants.
See, that's a lot of knowledge. Photoperiod dependent plants. Okay, I better start reading if I'm going to get any of this stuff together.
Yes, but it'll be a process, because she is a fickle mistress.
Is she?
The cannabis woman.
Oh,
she is.
We're going to get in trouble just for saying that these days.
But it's true, She's lovely. And she's
what if cannabis
beautiful.
declares that she's not gender specific? Then what are we going to do?
But she is. She's a female.
Oh, well, okay.
See?
Yeah.
And we try to keep her in chastity. Which can be worked sometimes.
Can be worked. You put a little belt
worked
around the bottom of the leaf.
Yes, but when a plant has 300,000 vaginas all over it.
300,000 vaginas.
I don't know, 1 million.
I would go see that band if they were touring.
Yeah,
North America.
1 million vaginas. We'll call our pot-based band that.
All right. Well, you may be asking yourself, who is this guy anyway? This host is. Who's this host? This is the guy with stage 4 cancer who got out of it. And this gentleman here with us now, he is he's a mascot for the show. He's a co-host for the show. He's a researcher for the show. He's a friend of the show. Paul Hartman. Maybe you still don't know who that is. So So here's the future. Paul Hartman will be seriously, and already is, more involved with this show and the efforts of cannabis than perhaps anybody else before. And we have a couple of questions for Paul. But before we do that, let's tell everyone who he is, courtesy of CTV News Windsor, who recently on 420 did a little profile on Paul and put it on the news. So here we go.
Speaking of numbers, it's 420.
Oh, that's a funny
proud cannabis
newscaster right
supporters gather to smoke marijuana openly and lobby for wider legalization not only in Canada but around the world. Now in Windsor, we've been paid a visit by the brother of the late Canadian board comedian Phil Hartman. He's in town to share his personal cannabis story and believes the drug saved his life. Here's Chris Campbell now with this exclusive.
Chris Campbell coming at you.
It's a bit like coming out of the closet for me because I've never been public about my cannabis use.
The brother of the late Phil Hartman is coming out in support of cannabis use, both recreationally and medicinally.
Phil gave me my first joint, and when Phil gave me my first joint, he said these words to me, right? He said, alcohol is for people who don't care and don't care to think. Cannabis is for people who care and care to think.
Paul Hartman will speak at a 2-day cannabis festival in downtown Windsor, marking just the second time he's been a speaker at a 420 event since 2015.
Shortly after that, I came down with prostate cancer.
3 years ago, Hartman's life changed.
I knew when I was going through the diagnosis process that I wasn't going to do the standard treatment.
A lifelong allergy prevents Hartman from taking certain pills, and chemotherapy wasn't something he wanted to endure. Medical cannabis was the treatment option Hartman wanted to take a chance on.
One of the things that encouraged me to go that way was that when I got diagnosed, 6 of my friends did. I'm the only one alive today.
3 years since his diagnosis, Hartman says he's now cancer-free. He's working on his brother's legacy project, hoping to earn Phil an Oscar nomination for an animated short based on his doodle sketchbook.
So yeah, we just left it there with you working on the work of your brother, the doodle sketchbook that you're bringing to life. So tell us a little bit about that project. What's involved with that?
That's an incredible project and one that I was very reluctant to get involved in because it was based on his comedy album, and his comedy album was called Flat TV, and it was released after his death on Rhino Records, and it had originally been done as a demo for a voiceover demo for animation. And Phil and I lived together for a long time when we worked in Hollywood. And we would commute together a lot, and we would drive by Hanna-Barbera. And he would always say, someday I'm going to do voices for Hanna-Barbera. And I'd be like,
that'd
of course.
be great.
It
Yeah,
totally
sure.
makes sense to me. You're crazy, right? And so, next thing I know, like maybe less than a decade later, he's doing Scooby-Doo and whatever, right? Smurfs and
Right.
all kinds of stuff. And that voiceover recording that was produced by Chad Stewart got lost when it kind of happened right around the time Pee-wee's Playhouse happened, and right after that he got SNL. And it kind of just got lost. And then the studio where he recorded it disappeared, and the original reel, they ended up finding it stored in a shed in the guy's backyard who had been the engineer at the studio. And
wow.
So in animation,
That's a good find.
You do all the voice work first, and then you animate to it. And 2 companies had tried to do it, and it really became a promotional project for each of them, so they weren't in the right mindset to do it. So each one of those collapsed, and then a very good friend of mine, Brian LeMay, who taught at Humber and Sheridan and Seneca here in Toronto, in the classical animation department, he got really excited about it and just kind of jumped into it and started doing it. And I was like, holy cow, man, this guy's crazy, right? Like, he just started animating stuff and designing characters. And I went and had a meeting with him, and I gave him Phil's doodle file to digest, and he got it. Like, he took characters from Phil's file and he put them in and he animated them.
And made it work.
And it's just so insane to watch something come to life like that.
Yeah, that's so great. What a great testament to your very hilarious brother. Sadly, no longer with us, but wow, what a funny guy. If you don't know Phil Hartman, you missed a lot of laughs. We're going to close up pretty soon, but we do have an email, and your comments on this would be welcome. So basically, this gentleman has a home growers union. And this involves donating plants. So check this out, and we will go to a close on this. And I guess we'll have to do a special episode on the Nexium and the Bronfman sisters and the sex cult that one of them propagates while her brother funds Trudeau's marijuana laws into existence in Canada at the same time. And let's pretend that's not all connected. But in the meantime, I keep getting to that, but this is the second week I've teased that out, and now here we are, just about ready to wrap. So here's this letter from Rasputin's ghost, okay? It says, "Hey team," that's us. "We form a home grow union. We have grow clubs to grow our plants and gather plants from non-using households and provide them with tax-deductible donation to palliative care. You see, the way this plays out is they include it in the health plan. They pay top dollar to the canopy with everyone's tax dollar. So 90% of the households won't do it anyway. Let's get their plants and give them something in return." Are you clear on what I'm saying so far? Okay, so join with them to drive the price down the toilet, taking the big outfits with them. Huzzah! A little scattered high again, the gentleman says. Peace. Rasputin's ghost, assuming that's a man. So basically has a home grow union. They have grow clubs to grow plants and gather plants from non-using households and provide them with a tax deduction. And it goes to palliative care. And that's included in the health plan. Okay, so what do you think about that? I hope I've articulated that correctly, but I'm reading something that was written by a high man. So
it's an interesting idea. I think, ultimately, anybody with a terminal illness or MS or Alzheimer's or any of those kind of things should get it free.
Yeah.
And likely anybody who's legitimately medical. I think our biggest defense here in what's about to face us is that anybody who can be medical, like get your certificate, get your script, grow yourself, be part of a co-op like this guy suggests. Cooperative grows are going to become a real thing more and more, and they exist now. And I think that's the good thing about the law is that it enables that approach. Everybody who does that is taking $1 or $10 or $1,000 or up to $1,800 a year, depending on what your condition is, away from an LP. And the other thing is that there are LPs out there that aren't bad, so there is going to be a filtering system that is going to have to be developed by us. One of them I will suggest that is good and ethical is Weed MD. I know the guy personally. He is a brilliant grower and a really great gentleman. Derek Pedro, somebody that should be on the show at some time. He's down in the Hamilton, St. Catharines area.
Right.
And there are people out in Vancouver and on the island that are good too. But, the problem is that when you get too big, you get too big. And this is not a crop that, when you get into any scenario where you're monocropping,
right,
where you're cloning the hell out of something and filling a room full of it, you're going to get in trouble. And we see it outside, and that's why pesticides are used so much on crops like broccoli. Broccoli is the most sprayed crop next to strawberries.
Oh. Yeah.
So, but they grow all the same variety, and very often it's from genetically modified seed because it has to be able to withstand glyphosate. So,
which is a terrible cancer-causing compound,
terrible
which they have to now admit.
Thing. California just recently said, no, you have to label it as a carcinogen.
Yeah,
so,
because it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's speaking of carcinogens. I guess we're at the end of the day here for the show. And before we go, though, I'd like to say thank you to our guest Alicia Yashcheshen in Saskatchewan, Paul Hartman for dropping in, and once again,
Always
before we go, we do have a fantastic, well, it's a corporate kind of situation to share with you folks. And I'd like to go over that one more time real quickly. We have teamed up with Ross's Gold Glass and West Coast Gifts to present a new contest for a 24K gold logoed 12-inch low roller black glass water pipe.
Wow.
With matching stem and bowl.
Yay!
It's tough to get through all that at the same time, but listen, that's going to be a fantastic thing. Check your socials. That's our social at Green Crush Pod on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. My name is Alan Park.
And I'm Paul Hartman.
And that's
They
Paul
let
Hartman.
Me sit here every now and
We
then.
bring him in, we drag him to the other side of the table, we sit him down, and he fills our head with fantastic information. Thanks for coming to the show. Come back next week. We've got all kinds of great guests and stuff lined up for you. So please do visit us again next time on Green Crush Conspiracy Queries with Alan Park. Thank you very much. Have a great day.